When did film come into your life?
That was really early. That was a lot with my dad, and I used to watch Disney movies with my mum and my little brother from very, very young. And obviously every young boy aspires to be kind of the Prince Charming, or the same way as the young girls aspire to be the princesses. So that part of it was there, and my dad is in post in film as well. So I used to watch a lot of films with him, and it was all very interesting to me how he would explain. I'd ask, how's this done and how's that done, and it was really interesting for him to explain kind of how that sort of stuff done. So that was all really interesting to me, and that started very early, like I guess before I was 10, around that sort of time. And around the same sort of time, I was also doing plays in school, and so I guess my interest in film and TV was then kind of emphasised by my realisation that I actually enjoyed doing it. I loved doing it. So, very early, 9, 10, around that sort of time.
So when does film transition to acting around?
It was very quick for me, actually. In fact, it was almost the same sort of time. The time when we were envisioning ourselves being, Prince Charming or whoever it was. Very early on to me, that became, I want to be these people. I want to do that sort of thing, and got involved in it in school and then outside of school as well. And it was, I guess, almost instant. I'm very much that sort of person. I always have been. Who, if I get an idea in my head, I'm like, why wouldn't we do that? Let's go do that thing that I just thought of a second and a half ago. Let's go do it. And that's always who I've been. So. I guess that's just kind of a tip of the cap to my mentality as to where it's led me.
Where did you study?
Studied Maidstone, but I didn't study acting professionally, or theatre or anything. I haven't studied that professionally, but I studied in school in Maidstone, and then moved to another school in Maidstone for like my sixth form years, 16 to 18 years. Where I did take a course in acting, but it wasn't a professional, it wasn't a drama school, so it wasn't a professional acting course. But, yeah.
After school, you went to Kenya briefly.
Did, yeah. I spent a little while in Kenya. Weirdly, as almost, there were a lot of factors, and I wanted to get away, and there was a part of me that wanted to, kind of make a difference, but at the same time, when you get out there and you start doing things, it to individuals, to people, it makes a huge amount of difference. To the people who are out there, they really appreciate you being there, and it can, some potential Western influences, while a lot of them I don't agree with, some of them they really, really appreciate and really respond to. But at the same time, when you come back and look at the kind of the world in a much wider picture, it's really quite distressing that you've actually made no difference at all, really. You've made a difference to individuals, but as a whole you've made, so that was one of the reasons I went out. And then one of the other reasons was I needed to get away from everything. I just auditioned for all my drama schools, and I got really close and didn't get in anywhere. I needed to get away for a little while, and I spent some time in Africa, and came back with kind of the inspiration of all the people that I worked with while I was out there. I came back with a little bit of their spirit, which I'm eternally grateful for, because it's something that's kept me going every day.
And it was it that motivation that inspired you to then get an agent and get serious about?
Kind of, yeah, actually. It's never really something I've thought about too much, but I guess so, yeah, because it was around the same sort of time. And I guess it must have been, because I did come back, and all of a sudden it was like, right, find an agent, let's start going to, let's start making this actually go. There's so much to be said for luck is a big thing in this industry, and so on and so forth. I don't really believe in that, to be honest. Being in the right place at the right time, I don't believe in that either. I believe in putting yourself in the right place and being there at the right time. That's what I believe in. If I know a big audition's coming up, they're always on it anyway, but I'll speak to my agents and say, look, I want to be in this room, I know I can do it, blah, 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 and they'll fight for it as well, and then we all fight for it together, and I think so.
What's the cut?
The cut was a TV show for the BBC, which was about, it was kind of coming of age. It was about young kids, and a lot of the issues that they face, and they all had very real parallels with what was going on in culture and society at the time. So it was actually quite nice, because a lot of people related to kind of the bullied kid and like the popular ones and the emo ones, and so it was a good little project. I really enjoyed it.
Your character Jack shows up in season 3, and Jack has a very big secret, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. Not anymore because season 3's done, but it was a big secret, even from me for a long time, because they knew roughly where the character was going to end, but they hadn't written the ending of season 3 yet. So I kept asking, like, what's going to happen with Jack? And they were like, you'll find out when we write it, because we haven't yet. So, and then it got to the ending, and there was this whole, everything all just all came out all of a sudden, which was it was really cool, actually. Well, it wasn't cool, it was insane, but it's good fun as an actor to do something that's very surreal.
When it comes to a character like Jack, who is essentially an enigma for a majority of the time that we see him, how do you build someone like that?
I was given a couple of bases that the writers wanted similarities of characters in real life. They wanted little elements of that, and I was told his condition from the beginning. I was told he was a paranoid schizophrenic, so I did a lot of research about a lot of physicality. I put a lot of that into it because even just simple things like the mentality of Jack is he's constantly looking behind him and over his shoulder, but that's something that would then translate physically because he physically was looking behind him because he constantly thought people were following him. So there was a lot of that going on, and then I got told kind of the vague storyline and the connections between the different characters, so I got to bounce off those and know kind of roughly where it was going. But it's interesting because when you don't know exactly how it's going to end, it's almost a little more real because you just react in it. You don't know where it's going. You don't know how it's going to end, both as a character and as an actor. So it kind of connects those two, rather than the actor being disjointed by knowing how it's going to end and knowing how it's going to finish, to the character who doesn't. So they end up a little more linked and unified, which is really quite interesting to do it that way.
In 2012, you were in a movie called Not Fade Away.
I was, yeah. Playing Mick Jagger. I played a young Mick Jagger in Not Fade Away. That was awesome as well. That was.
Well, firstly, who directed the film?
David Chase. So it's The Sopranos. The amazingly talented and eternally scary David Chase. That sounds terrible. He's the nicest man. He really is, but he doesn't give very much away. So. And we actually got told this when we were, because I didn't meet him until literally we were on set, but everyone else, the production team, the producers and the line producers and the ADs, they all said he's not going to say much to you because he just doesn't. But when he's happy, he'll just say, that's it, we're done, and that means you've done a good job because he won't let you leave until he's happy. And there are all these crazy rumours about him making actors pull 18-hour days and just being on set for 18 hours and doing it again and again and again. It is daunting to not only be working with someone like David Chase, and we had James Gandolfini in that film as well, which is incredible, and Bella Heathcote, Jack Houston. It was amazing, but absolutely terrifying. But on top of that, to not only be taking on a person who's existed, but someone who's so influential and so well known all around the world that it's really important that your performance needs to be exactly right. I was a wreck the whole time I was filming. I was really, really nervous, and we were in New York. That's the first time I've been to America. It was just everything. It was a stressful time, but it was another absolutely incredible experience.
How do you build a young Mick Jagger? That's
the thing. That's what was so difficult is we did the. It's a very brief part in the film, but it's when he was 18, and it's when he met Richards for the first time. They went to primary school together. They went to Wentworth Primary School together. I'm going to give you a little Rolling Stones history right now. They went to Wentworth Primary together, and then they didn't see each other throughout secondary school, and then they were both at college, and they happened to get on the same train. And Jagger had a pile of vinyls on his lap, and Richards came over and said, blah, 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 and they started talking about music and their love of music, and then they started jamming together, and that's where the Stones came from. If one of those had missed that train, the Stones wouldn't have happened. This is dead truth, and that is the first scene we do in the film. But what's difficult about doing something like that is they weren't the Stones yet. Nobody cared who they were, so there wasn't any footage of them. There isn't any. Like, that's the normal thing you would, if you're playing Elvis, you Google young Elvis. That's what you do, and you try and find stuff. And there wasn't any. There just wasn't anything for me to base it on. So I had to go a little bit later to kind of 1920, and roughly base things on that. But I was very lucky that, as we said, we grew up in the southeast, and he's obviously from Dartford, and there's the Mick Jagger Centre in Dartford and stuff. So I kind of went down there and got as much research from that as I could. And people ask me quite often, like, oh, was it difficult getting his dance and all that? And I was like, again, we haven't done that. That's not the part of his life that we were filming at all. He was just a very polite public schoolboy. That's essentially what he was, which is what made it so difficult. He was very humble, and I got to read a lot about him and what other people thought, and I had to base it on kind of nothing. But, you know, David Chase was happy. He sent us home. Otherwise, I'd still be there filming it now. So we must have done something right.
He's coming in 10 minutes to finish.
He is, yeah, exactly.
So now we're caught up to Vampire Academy.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I play Christian Ozera in Vampire Academy, who's a member of the royal bloodline, same as my character's kind of counterpart, Lissa. And the movie's centred around two young girls going through their trials and tribulations of high school, but at the same time obviously dealing with the fact that they're one's a vampire and ranks very, very high on the kind of cultural chain, and the other one is a half vampire, and people don't like her quite as much. But it's about them, and I play Lissa's boyfriend, and then there's who's played by Lucy Fry. Then there's Rose, who's played by Zoe Deutsch, and her love interest, who is played by Danila Kozlovsky, who plays Dimitri.
How did you land the role?
I first got sent the role by my agents. They sent it over, and they actually sent me two. They sent me two roles over, and said they'd like you to audition for both. Which weirdly, in hindsight, I now know that the guy who got the other part also auditioned for Christian as well. But I auditioned initially for those two. And then when I got recalled the first time, they'd scrapped the other character, and it was just for Christian. And it kept going like that we did 6 auditions altogether. No, sorry, 5 auditions and a chemistry read, which was grueling and it was horrible. And every time I came back, they'd tell me to do something differently, and I never knew exactly what it was, whether I was doing it right, whether I was doing it wrong, whatever. I had no idea. And then after the chemistry read, I got the call the next day from the director, actually, you're going to be playing our Christian. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And then the excitement started to build, and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone straight away because it hadn't been released officially. So I knew, and like my mum knew, and a couple of my best friends knew, but no one else was allowed to know. I was even a little worried about telling my mum because she likes to talk, but I kept it quiet, and then it got released, and we filmed, and it's all going that way now.
And, an interesting footnote is that it's directed by whom?
Mark Waters of Mean Girls. So.
What was it like working with him?
Amazing. He's the one of the nicest men I've probably ever met in my entire life. But on top of that, he's very, very good at his job from the point of view that he's an actor's director. He knows exactly how to work with us and how to talk to us, and very much adapts to the different people who are in the different. So I'm very different from Lucy, who plays my love interest in the movie, and Lucy and me are very different from Zoe, and Zoe's very different from Sarah, and he adapts to all of those people, and he has different kind of tricks and tips that they can use. A couple that he did with me quite often that are very, very helpful. And then it all filters down throughout the cast, because the cast obviously got very close. And if I was struggling with something, I would speak to the other guys, and they'd say, oh, well, Mark tried this with me, why don't you try this with me? I was like, oh, that's a really good idea, and vice versa. I did some of my tricks with some of the other actors as well. So he really is a really great guy to work with.
So starting with the script then, I mean, are you an actor, do you work from the outside in or the inside out?
The costume to me is very much the last, you put it on and then you do feel like the character, and obviously you put your fangs in and you're like, okay, now I feel like a vampire. Like, you put your uniform on and you feel like a school kid again. But no, very much from the inside out. It's important that we have, to me, that I have the grounding of the mentality and the psyche of the character before any of the kind of superficial, which it is really. I've got to sets on days where they've said, no, I don't really like that shirt, or no, can you take this off, or he's not pale enough, put some more pale makeup on. My hair was an issue constantly. Mark didn't like my hair at all. It was dyed.
Many fans will disagree.
Well, it's not. I work really hard on it. No, I'm good. Wow, Vane, get him out. No, it's Mark. Christian's hair is very messy, and my hair likes to sit in naturally quite a neat position. So it was kind of the bane of we'd set everything up, and we'd get my mic on, and the cameras would be all set, and we'd just hear Mark go, "And can we fix Christian's hair? Just do this with it." Like, sorry. And my makeup artist, Sally, who's, again, one of the nicest women, by the end, she's going, "I don't know what you fucking want anymore," and just walk off. "I don't know. Just do it yourself, whatever, let the wind do it, I don't know."
So when we meet Christian, like, where is he?
We meet Christian. The girls, little lowdown of the story. The girls run away from school because of a threat that they neither of them know about. They don't really remember why they've run away from school. They remember something was wrong, but they've run away from school, and then they've been caught and brought back to the school because it's supposedly by the system is safer in the school. Both Lissa and Rose are very alone at this kind of point in the story because been exiled, they everyone else, they've lost their social standing in the school, and they're very much like, why, blah, blah, blah. So I get introduced, I guess, like 10-15 minutes into the movie, because my character's very much the same. My character's parents term themselves Strigoi, which is it's the worst thing you can do. It's like murder in our culture. It's the worst thing you can do in vampire culture. In fact, it is murder in vampire culture. So he's ended up very much alone as well, and he's turned it inwards. He's very bitter, and he's found kind of humour in that. He's ended up very sarcastic and very sardonic, and he's introduced in a place called, he's introduced in an attic, in an attic of a church, where he's found solace, where he can be alone and away from kind of the prying eyes and the loose lips. He can be away from all of that, but Lissa's also found the same place. So they then meet, and their relationship blooms kind of from their loneliness a little, which is kind of sad. I'm very much a believer in people are products of their environment and products of their history. Like, I know I am. Even the bad things that have happened in my life have moulded me and turned me into the person I am. So I start with Christian and kind of any character I do as early on as I can, as early on as there is knowledge about his character. And that goes back to when Christian was very, very young, when his parents turned themselves Strigoi and then tried to turn him Strigoi as well. They tried to kill their sons so they could be kind of immortal. And the reasoning behind it isn't ever really kind of looked at in this story. But so I go all the way back to that and kind of look all the way through to his current scenario where he's in school and he's a teenager and he gets bullied and teased and picked on and exiled. There's all of that, but at the same time, he watched his parents turn into the worst things you can possibly imagine. He watched that from a very young age. So there's all of that and kind of the moulding of the anger and the pain and the sadness and the loneliness that initial experience would have left him with, then that steps up and builds from one to the other. And I think integrally in the story, the real importance of that is then his connection to Lissa, and that they obviously fall in love. And that's what's kind of interesting about it, is because they don't fall in love with each other because of anything to do with vampires. They both know they're vampires. They're born vampires. They've been brought up with vampires. They've been brought up with their powers and their thirst and what they need to do to survive. So that's very normal to them. In the same way we study biology and maths and English, that it's the same. So it's nothing to do with the fact that they're vampires. It's almost human. It's human emotions that draw them together, which I actually really liked, and that was a kind of a big thing for me when I got the script, because that comparison between us and other vampire films that is coming up, and this is how I answer it normally, because there is that human element to it of that love isn't supernatural. It isn't anything to do with the supernatural. It is to do with two people who are lonely and find solace in each other. We cover things that potentially other movies of this genre haven't done before, cover them in more kind of depth and sincerity, but at the same time we have the comedy of it as well, so hopefully it's gonna do as well.
So what was it like sort of meeting everyone for the first time?
I met Lucy and Zoe for the first time at the chemistry read, which again was terrifying because they've already got their parts, and it's very, very important that I make sure that there's chemistry with both me and Zoe and me and Lucy. So that was really difficult, and that was really quite hard. And then I met all of the other cast at the table read, which that was really okay because everyone was nervous. All the producers were there, the directors were there, and we got driven in with Ed and a couple of the others, and we were all just talking on the way there. So that was really cool, and we were all kind of unified in our fear of messing up in front of everyone.
So you've got you have a scene where you kiss Lucy.
One or two, yeah, one or two.
How do you make that sort of work as a scene? I mean, you obviously have to get comfortable with Lucy and so. Actually, tell me what it's like working with Lucy Fry.
It's awesome. Lucy's lovely. She's the nicest girl. It's never difficult to work with her, and she's never sad or down. She never seems to have that front, and which is really good because that's very contagious. So I think feelings are very contagious. So if you're negative around someone, that then breeds negativity. But with Lucy, if someone's negative around her, she's positive, and that then brings you up and lightens your day. So it's really great working with her. She's a talented actress as well, so it's really, really nice to work with someone who, is great at her job, which makes you great at your job, and just makes you smile every day.
And working with Zoe.
Zoe's wicked. Like, she's got mad amounts of energy. She's so professional as well. She's very, very good at her job. Which is great, and it's quite inspiring to work with someone like her, because she's not the sort of person who gives up or gives in when she's been training all day and then has to do scenes and fight scenes. And we had a scene in the reshoots where they just went, "You're good with nunchucks, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, whatever, I can. Yeah, it's fine. I can do these." So that it's great working with two young women who have really so much talent.
With something that's massively popular as Vampire Academy, is there any trepidation when you entered the role, or are you now comfortable with the fact that you're playing a massively popular character?
It's actually got worse as it's gone on, to be honest. Because when I first went into it, I tried not to pay too much mind to the fact that there is this huge fan base, and when I was filming and doing all of that. Now I'm going off on my press tour tomorrow. And now it's very real that I'm starting to meet a lot of these people, and it's very much hit home that it is very popular and the character's very known.
Fans in Christian Azera cosplay.
Yeah, so it's now quite terrifying to me that that it's very real. But beforehand, when we were filming and when I was auditioning, that was something that I tried not to pay too much attention to, because when it's amazing to have people like that behind us, and it really is, but at the same time, I get same as kind of with the book and reading the book, it's almost not 100% relevant, because it's Mark and Dan's job to make sure it's close to the story and make sure the fans are okay. It's not, and I just do as I'm told by Dan and Mark. That's that's my job. So that's not something I worried about, and it's now it's got a lot worse. I'm very nervous about it, but yeah, it's okay.
So when is the premiere?
Premiere's on the 4th in LA, and then the release is on the 7th. It's the 7th in America, and then it's been pushed back to the end of April over here. So yeah, as UK guys, gonna have to wait a little. Not me, I would have seen it, but everyone else is gonna have to wait a little bit.
So do you know what you're doing next after all of this?
We have things in the pipeline that I'm not allowed to talk about them at the moment, just because there's official papers that need to be signed and so on and so forth. But we've got things that, I say we because this is we're a team. It's me and my agents, my manager, and we're all a team, and we all work very closely together. We're a bit of a family, really, which is really nice to have people that close to me who really look after me and care about me, and I care about them. But yeah, we're not allowed to divulge too much at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay, so Vampire Academy officially comes out on February 7th.
That's right, yeah.
On February 7th, 2014, and if you're interested in more information, go to facebook.com/official Vampire Academy movie, as well as the official tie-in website, which will be linked here. Thank you very much, Dom, for
Pleasure.
coming here. Oh,
Thank
and
you very much.
before I leave, one final question.
Yeah.
Because, it's been on my mind. I was wondering, could you sign this for eBay purposes?
For eBay purposes, absolutely. I'm going to sign someone else's name.
Gary, have
you got a pen? Doug has a pen. There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for talking to me.
That was Dom Sherwood. That was so much for Pathos, and thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you.